All right. Green citations, all my beloved Airborne Simians, and what up, and everything, sports fans? Blank the Mahomes Football League. Fill in the blank. I am extremely pleased. It's long overdue. Checking back in with my dear friend John Hamer, along with my friend and co-host William Remnant Broadcasting Network Munsell. And John, there's so much to catch up with you on. I would like to kind of start with just some current event stuff that I was working on before all hell broke loose here at the house,
Right.
and get your input because you're just such an absolute wealth of information. I gotta check my wife. This is part of the chaos. Just checking with my wife real quick. Okay. All right. I just saved for myself all my tabs, and I just opened up a million more tabs. So hopefully I don't crash. Let's see here. What do we need to start with? Hey, let's just start with this. Get your take on this, John. Pre-crime. I like to. It's not really fantasy, but I will call it fantasy. I like to fantasize about when Johnny becomes Lord Protector. It's a valid question. What does right look like? We examine all of the fraud as far as I'm concerned. So prior to the fall of the Roman Empire, empire's tyrannies kept you enslaved by putting a soldier on every street corner. With the transformation of the Roman Empire into the military Roman Empire and the religious Roman Empire, they now control by putting your soldiers on every street corner and making you think you voted for them. You are paying for them. So it's much more insidious, John, the level of control and tyranny and enslavement today.
Yeah.
So as we examine that, as the guys here in this forum attempt to pull down and answer the questions that a lot of controlled opposition are refusing to answer or only giving partial answers to, who's behind the curtain. Part of that process is, what does right look like? Okay, hey, thank you for telling me who's behind the curtain. How do we fix it? What does it look like? And for me, something that I've been saying is, when Johnny is Lord Protector, no more pre-crime. Because pre-crime is used as a pretense. Pre-crime is a pretense for slave training and enslavement across the board. Helmet laws, seatbelt laws, really gun confiscation, all that stuff. It's essentially pre-crime. And I was just thinking through this earlier today. What is the ultimate? Don't you dare. What is the ultimate don't you dare? Your right to free speech ends with yelling fire in a crowded theater. That's the archetypical don't you dare. Now, I was examining this myself. I said, I don't have a problem with that. The problem is when a human being gets trampled because you yelled fire in a crowded theater. Now the crime has been committed. You yelling fire in a crowded theater is not the crime.
Yeah.
A real society, a just society, waits until the crime has been committed. But they have manipulated us into thinking they love us, and therefore they need to preempt the crime, such as pre-crime. And so on that issue, now there are some, I'm curious on your thoughts on censorship. There are some boundaries for censorship that should be maintained. Obviously nothing that the current tyrannies deem censor worthy. How do you feel about this? And have you seen, I have not seen a lessening of, this is the new normal. I have not seen a lessening of censorship at all. What's your experience and what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously, there is so much of that. It's becoming more and more insidious as time goes by. yeah, I mean, it's not something that I'd really given an awful lot of thought to, but it just struck a chord with me. You actually mentioning it, but yeah, we're surrounded by this stuff, aren't we? It's all done for our own protection. This is how they sell it to us. This is how they dress it up. It's all to protect us, but in reality, it's just another one of a long list of control mechanisms, in my view. It's another way of controlling us and keeping us in line. And its sister or brother is, thought control. It's like it's just a fat form of mind control, isn't it? It's kind of an adjunct to it, but it's a kind of mind control because it makes you think, oh gosh, I mustn't do that because that's not the right thing to do because I've been told so many times. So yeah, I mean, it is a very insidious development, and I can only see it probably getting worse as they tighten up the controls, and they are doing this. They're making everything more stringent. We're not allowed to do this, we're not allowed to do that, and it's not just about actions; it's also about thoughts, about words. Anything that goes against their agenda is taboo. Anything, they've made everything taboo, and there's a word for it. Anti-Semitism, racism, sexism, and a morass of other isms that are absolutely taboo now. And they're only opinions at the end of the day. You're not allowed to express an opinion if it goes against that agenda, and it's kind of all related, if you like. I suppose that's my
Absolutely agree, Bill. I'll get your input in a second. Let me add one more thing to that. Two things I was listening to. What brought this thought process for me was listening to, is it Michael Schellenberg? Let's see here. Yeah, Michael Schellenberg. I was listening to the stalwart reporter that was supposedly contracted by the great Elon Musk. And every time I say that name, I have to laugh because there's no way that that's an actual legal entity. He's simply a front man for the same machine.
Yeah.
So listening to Michael Schellenberg talk about, okay, working for Twitter, the line of demarcation is obviously incitement to violence. And I was examining that, part of the reason why, and it looks like Michael Schellenberger's background is like Mennonite turned atheist turned back to Christian. Not a lot of what we would call Jezidue on Schellenberger. And what I've seen is the biggest thing about Schellenberger is he still doesn't think above. He still doesn't think radically at our level, and therefore he's safe. He calls the election of Trump a revolution in 2016. I'm like, all right, pal. You're a reporter, okay? But when he was talking about the Twitter restriction on incitement of violence, just like you said, John, we have been instilled incitement of violence. Don't you dare say, don't you dare encourage. The fact is when the government is a criminal agency and there's no way to vote them out, what the F are you supposed to say? What are you supposed to say? When the government commits mass rape of children with the help of the Catholic Church, and that's not exaggeration, Australia, Canada, United States, Ireland, all throughout the world, mass rape of children and torture and murder. And then the government's response is to have a legislative commission do a report. What else is left other than violent overthrow of the government?
Yeah, it's the age-old question, isn't it? When the government is out of control, do we have the right to violently?
The United States Declaration of Independence claims yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not openly advocating violence here, by the way, but
us neither.
We're not.
We're just taking this logically. We're walking this dog down the logical path. What is left? And it is strictly forbidden to say that because that's the most dangerous course of action to the machine. That's the one thing that they don't have. They've got all the technology. They've got all they've got the guns. They've got the radios. but they don't have the numbers. That's the only thing they don't have. So they have to cut that off. That, and I repeatedly say, that's the only course of action that's going to get you anywhere. And don't you dare try to do it on your own. The only course of action is networking as a response to a government crime. I played this video. I'm going to shut up as I pull this video up and look for the video and let Bill jump in as an example.
Before Bill jumps in, could I just say something? I have this thing that I always say, and that is, it sounds quite glib, but it's true. Politely asking tyrants not to be tyrannical has a very poor track record of success historically. So what logical, what comes from that? What is the logical next step from that? And that is open violence. It's the only answer. We'll probably get annihilated, but.
Well, and that's it. And they still want that. They have manipulated they've insulated themselves. As far as we're concerned, it was Jesuit Superior General Lorenzo Ricci who wrote Art of War and published it as bragging for the American Revolution that he manipulated. What history acknowledges is, was it Jean-Marie Amoy? Amoit is supposedly the Jesuit who edited Art of War. But essentially, Art of War is really it's our weakness against the machine's strength. Our weakness is force of arms. The machine has the technology. The machine has all the best of everything. So us going against the machine is our weakness against the machine's strength. That is not the way to carry out a successful campaign. Unfortunately, the machine has been at it for eons, and they may have backed us into a corner where we have no other alternative. Bill, did you have anything?
John just brought up an interesting point, because I've seen both Canada and the UK have the same kind of parliament, right? Isn't that what it's called? The government body.
Yeah.
And to see, I mean, I thought our Congress was a dog and pony show, but to watch, especially in Canada, you have the ruler of that country. What is his name? I can't.
Trudeau. He's a communist dictator, basically. Yeah.
Right. And who we still think is.
It's actually Castro Trudeau.
Castro Trudeau.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but you see, the whole parliament is against the guy, and they get up and give wonderful arguments of how he's ruining our country. He's doing this, he's doing that. And then he gets up and grandstands and and I'm thinking, I'm surprised Canada is a country. And Johnny is right. The thing of it is, there's an old saying as a kid, there's safety. I think it's more than just safety in numbers, because like Johnny said, they don't. I love that picture. That's gotta be, yeah.
Trudeau, Prime Minister, far left Roman Catholic sexual deviant Trudeau, Prime Minister, son of far left Roman Catholic sexual deviant Trudeau, absolutely, Prime Minister, because there is no one else qualified,
absolutely,
in Canada to become Prime Minister.
Wow, I need those pictures, Johnny. Send me those. Give them to you. Those are great.
I have the video I want to bring up, John, but let me pause and prep you with something, let you think about it, and I'll bring this video up. It really is a masterstroke, because here in America, you have two choices, reptilian or demon rat, Republican or Democrat. Pretty easy to corrupt simply two major choices, no matter what, how easy it is. Pick one and they win, no matter what. It's much more of a coup d'etat to have a parliamentary system where you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different parties sharing power, vying for majority. and still thoroughly corrupt. We'll get your input on that in a second. I have this video as an example of when to act. One of the opportunities to act is when you catch the police or the government, especially the police, committing a crime. To me, that is the moral authority. That's go time. One example is 20 August 2020. A Dutch protest. Is The Hague in the Netherlands? A Dutch so Dutch protest at The Hague over coronahoax tyranny. I absolutely refuse to say COVID because COVID is the scary medical terminology to take a hoax and make it sound legit.
Yeah.
The crowd, the pissed off crowd, caught cops provocateuring. And the cops had to run a hasty retreat to the police van. And I said, no one's thinking this. But this is the opportunity to rush the cops, beat the shit out of them, flip the van. You don't want any loss of life because then you're really stepping up the game. But at the bare minimum, you've caught the cops committing a crime. Treat them like criminals. Treat them like the criminals are. Now, there are cops here. There's at least one that I can see in uniform, almost certainly armed. Deal with it appropriately. It's a criminal with a firearm. You have to subdue that criminal and stop them from bodily harm. But I'll play the video. Right, here they are in masks and civilian attire with their, what do they call these?
Nightsticks.
Telescoping batons. So the baton, you flick it out and it becomes 3 times its normal size metal. This is a weapon. These people need to be rushed. They're criminals.
I hate to interrupt this, Johnny, but the people in the chat are not getting any audio at all.
Yep, I'm going to have to reset. Odysee did it to me again. Stand by, guys.
Good thing I looked over at the chat.
I'm resetting, and I will have to upload. This is what happens. I had to jump in right away without doing a sound check. Keep me posted. Let me know if that comes in, guys. So you've got this guy right here, and he's, oh, come on now, let him go. Come on, take it easy, let him go. No, you bastard, you're committing a crime. So the purpose here, realize what is the provocateuring. The provocateuring is these criminal cop scum pretending to be the protesters and then committing crimes to blame, it's a true false flag, to blame the innocent citizenry as a pretense for ratcheting up tyranny, coming in, water cannons, mace, sound weapons, and the whole gamut. These cops are coming. You caught them. You let them get away. Okay? So just wanted to play that for you, John, as an example. What I'm talking about, at least missed opportunity.
Yeah, I've seen it for myself. I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but at the height of the nonsense of the last 2 or 3 years, there were massive protests in London, and I went to a couple of them. And when I say massive, these were like 1.5 million people on the streets. Didn't make the mainstream, of course.
No coverage.
Or they did, but they said there was a few thousand. Right. Yeah, okay, that's how they covered it, and they just showed like isolated little groups. These crazies. The stuff. So I have seen it for myself, and there was a lot of instances in London where exactly that was going on, but on a much larger scale. There were people, cops, dressed in civilian clothes, going in and starting fights. And then it was a big excuse for them to round people up. And they were dragging people by the hair. They were, bundling them into vans by the dozen, carting them off. Fortunately, I was just stood on the periphery of it. I didn't get involved. But yeah, I've seen it for myself, so I know it goes on. It must happen all the time, actually.
When you catch a cop or group of cops committing a crime, you have moral authority, except in Colorado, and I'm sure this law is in several other locations. In Colorado, you are forbidden to resist a criminal cop because when they have a badge, they have color of law. How about that? In Colorado, you are forbidden to resist a criminal cop.
Yeah. Well, I remember writing in my first book, this is going back 12 years or more. At that time, they just passed a law in Indiana. I think it was Indiana from memory, whereby a policeman could enter your house for any reason whatsoever. He didn't have to tell you the reason, and you were not allowed to stop him. You could be arrested on the spot and taken away if you tried to stop a policeman from entering your house for any reason whatsoever.
What's left? What's up? By the way, the telescoping baton is an ASP from the company acronym Armament Systems Procedures Inc. Really, you clowns. It's been around for a while. I've had them. I've not hit anybody with one, but I'm familiar with how they work. So very common amongst thugs carrying badges and guns. John, what do you think about the corruption of the parliamentary system?
I always say that democracy is great because it's the best system that money can buy, and it is all controlled by money. Another thing is, people ask me if I ever vote. And my answer to that is no, I never vote, because the problem with it is whoever you vote for, the government always gets in. So it doesn't really matter. It's just an illusion. It's just put there to make you think you've got freedom of choice and that you've got a group of people who are looking after your best interests, when in actual fact, the only interest they're looking out for is the people up here.
Right,
not you.
Right, because the people are selected, not elected.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very clever system, and I think it arose because, I mean, you alluded to this earlier in the piece, Johnny, and that is that many, many years ago, medieval times and pre that, we were controlled by violence. Yeah, but they soon realised that there must be a better way to do this, because they didn't want to have to fight battles that were unnecessary, and battles against people who actually didn't, for some reason, took exception to this violence. So they didn't want to do that. So they thought of a more subtle way, and that was to pretend that there was a system in place whereby we could pick and choose our own rulers, which is the biggest load of nonsense you could possibly imagine. But this is how they sell it to us, and this is what most people believe. But it is absolute garbage, basically. It's not true. It's a con. It's put there to again, it's control. Yeah.
I have a documentary historical clip on voting in the UK. I'll play this real quick here.
Okay.
I'll pull this up.
Well, Mrs. Miggins, at last we can return to sanity.
Yeah.
The hustings are over, the bunting is down, the mad hysteria is at an end. After the chaos of a general election, we can return to normal.
Well, has there been a general election then, Mr. Blackadder?
Indeed there has, Mrs. Miggins.
Oh, well, I never heard about it.
Well, of course you didn't. You're not eligible to vote.
Well, why not?
Because virtually no one is. Women, peasants, chimpanzees, lunatics, lords.
That's not true. Lord Nelson's got a vote.
He's got a boat, Boring.
Yeah, brilliant. It was a brilliant episode of that particular show. Yeah.
He's got a boat.
All right, let me jump into some other topics. I'm so thrilled to have my friend John back on. Forgive me for being disorganized and not having it lined up, ready to go. Like I said, it was a chaotic morning. Let's see here. Have you watched? I grabbed this. Maybe I think I've got it. Let me see if I've got it ready to go at the right time moment. Glenn Beck, who I call Glenn Black, interviewing Tucker Carlson, who I call Cucker Tarlson. Let's see if we have this ready to go.
Cooker, yeah.
Let's see here.
Can
I think I do. Okay, so this is so good. Cucker Tarlson's father, interesting guy. Let me pull up his Vatipedia. Let's see here. Just bear with me here. Sorry, like I normally have things all ready to go, lined up. So
Okay.
I noticed that Richard Warner Carlson, born Richard Boynton, not to be confused with the Marine Corps ace Gregory Boynton, different name, different family. Richard Carlson was a journalist as well as a government apparatchik. He ran. He was what was public broadcasting? He had a role in public broadcasting, and he was selected. Okay, he was the ambassador to Seychelles, which I've never heard of before, and I joked that it was, I don't know, some kind of a closet somewhere. Apparently, it's like, I don't know, a small island in Africa. He was also...
Oh, the Seychelles. The Seychelles.
That's what it is.
Seychelles.
Right. John's like, what the hell are you saying?
It's the Seychelles.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Is that an island chain, or I'm really showing my ignorance here?
Yeah, it is. It's an island chain in the Indian Ocean.
Okay. Okay. He also ran Radio Free. Was it Europe?
No.
Oh, and it's not even in his Vatipedia. Oh my goodness. Wow. Clear CIA. All right, let me go to my dossier of this guy. It's not in his Wikipedia, which I call Vatipedia. Carlson, Richard Warner Boynton. Oh, and I haven't got it up yet. I want to say it was Radio Free Europe, okay? As soon as I see Radio Free anything, I know CIA, okay?
Absolutely.
I was shocked that Glenn Beck would draw this out. It's hilarious that there's no delay. I mean, this is top technology. These guys are both multimillionaires. So this is a video interview with top technology. As far as I can tell, it's instantaneous. There's no delay. But you'd think it was a delay. But wait, he asked Tucker Carlson this question. And there's like a split second, like Cucker's like, what the? Let me play this for you.
Yeah.
I was so excited to have this exchange because to me, Dick Carlson, that connection of, I believe it's Radio Free Europe. Forgive me. Like I said, I've got 50 tabs open and a million files everywhere. But I'm like, boom, that's CIA right there. Now, Cucker admits that he applied for the CIA and was denied. And honestly, that's fine. I mean, everybody goes through that. Young conservatards like me, I never applied to the CIA, but it was a thought of getting into the government and whatnot. And I stupidly went to the military instead. So it's not a slam dunk as much as somebody like, what's his name? Anderson Cooper, Vanderbilt, actually interning with the CIA for a summer. That's a little bit closer of a slam dunk. But there's this exchange that I was like, wow, thank you. Where do I put this? Put this over here.
Can I ask you? You were such a. I don't mean this as a bad thing. You're just such an odd individual in the fact that your dad was in government. He was kind of obliquely in intelligence too, wasn't he? Or not?
Well, I applied to the CIA.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Love that pause. What the? And the look. I love that look. What the?
Dad was in government. He was kind of obliquely in intelligence too, wasn't he? Or not?
Well, I applied to the CIA.
Okay, yeah, okay, but you're, but you're.
Yeah, I grew up in a world like that for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in a world like that for sure.
And by the way, I couldn't think less of the CIA now. Just to be completely clear,
yeah,
I'm so grateful they turned.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, to his credit, he immediately is comfortable with it. So it's not like I would automatically assume, wow, this guy is a working operative. It's not. That's not how it works. And John, you know well, it's not how it works.
No.
We talk about Frederick Tupper Saucy #3 and his phenomenal book, Rulers of Evil. And he references Art of War, which we say is actually written by Lorenzo Ricci. And in Art of War, it talks about the beat of the drum.
Right. Is this the same Art of War that was allegedly written by Sun Tzu, the Chinese guy?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Good for you.
Okay.
I say the same thing. Allegedly written and edited by a Jesuit. Edited by a Jesuit. So I'm convinced that it was written by a Jesuit. I'm convinced it was written by Lorenzo Ricci. And these power structures don't have direct contact with the vast majority of their assets. There's a difference between an asset and an operative. An operative is read in. An operative is well trained. An operative will regularly have intimate, clear instructions. An asset is manipulated. An asset is taught by the beat of the drum with honey or vinegar. You get the honey, that means you did good. You get the vinegar, that means you're screwing up. Change your course. So I don't assume somebody like maybe even Glenn Beck either. I don't assume either of those guys. I think Glenn Beck was trained by the beat of the drum. I don't see, but it's an interesting connection. Once again, we have somebody hugely popular and supposedly populist, someone who is fired by Fox News, fired by CNN, fired by MSNBC, and yet here he has the most popular everything, most popular internet, most popular, et cetera, fired from Fox News, Guy Fox News, when he was at the height of his game. So like, okay, what's going on? He's our voice in the same way that, Ed Snowden is our voice, in the same way that Julian Assange, who Russell Brand it's everybody, and including Cucker, everybody's talking about poor Julian Assange. They want him dead because he annoyed the CIA. Okay, Julian Assange, as I've read repeatedly in my previous several shows, Julian Assange mocks anyone who questions the official 9/11 narrative. He's a shill. He's a fraud.
Yeah,
so, go ahead, John. And your input on these people that we're supposed to lift up. Assets versus operatives and how they're behaving, and this what you get served up, and it's served up, and if it's popular, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, that's a surefire way of telling whether anybody is real or not. You don't get a platform. If you're real, you do not get a mainstream platform of any kind whatsoever under any circumstances. I'm sorry, but that is just a fact, and it's not even up for debate. That is the case. Anybody who's got, for example, the guy over there, Alex Jones, he's got this syndicated show that allegedly seen by millions. They pull the plug on him. I mean, if this guy was for real, he would not have that platform. There is no question about it. That was just one example. But your man Tucker as well, yeah, same thing.
John, they supposedly fined him $1 billion. Was it $1 billion? I think it's $1 billion.
Yeah,
some insane
$1
amount
billion.
for daring to question the Sandy Hoax mass shooting, which is clearly a hoax.
Yeah. But it's been proven beyond all doubt that it was a hoax. There's so much evidence, isn't there? It's not even, again, it's something else that's not even up for debate.
I feel like I've got a lot of circumstantial evidence to show that Alex Jones is the comedian Bill Hicks. Circumstantial evidence in the same way that I've got the same amount of circumstantial evidence to show that Justin Trudeau is Justin Castro Trudeau. It's not, oh, here's this picture, and this picture looks like that. No. Names, places, and dates. The Trudeaus practically lived in Cuba. They were spending so much time, as I showed the photographs, spending so much time with Castro, they were pissing everybody off. This is in the heat of the Cold War. So there's all kinds of circumstantial evidence. I can pull it up. I don't want to really go down that rabbit trail in relation to both these guys, Bill Hicks and Alex Jones, being based out of Austin, CIA, Austin, Texas. Bill Hicks fading away just as Alex Jones is coming in. Bill Hicks ends talking about Waco. Alex Jones comes in talking about Waco. Supposedly, Bill Hicks is buried on family property. You can't see the grave. Biggest one is Bill Hicks and Alex Jones, both being managed by the same guy, Kevin Booth, with Sacred Cow Productions, with a cow that looks like the goat of Mendez. So all kinds of odd things about there. There's a connection. It's not just, oh, this guy looks like this guy's, because honestly, it's not a clear delineation in appearance and voice. And it's my contention that there was some minor surgery done to help pull this off. I'm also convinced that Bill Hicks was invited to Bohemian Grove, and it was at Bohemian Grove that this opportunity of a lifetime was offered to him, and he accepted. If you watch Bill Hicks towards the end of his career, you see him being more and more jaded and almost angry at the audience, like, you stupid, you know? And so you see how he's ready to step into something that is malignant towards his audience. You see that's palpable.
Yes.
Anyway, names, places, and dates. And the track record of Alex Jones speaks for itself. It appears that his goal has been throughout his entire career to go after critical topics the mainstream news won't cover and then discredit himself with buffoonery. Just like Donald Trump. Yeah, I don't know if you had any opinion on any of that. You too, Bill, after John.
Yeah, I've heard this stuff, but I'll be honest with you, Johnny, I've not actually looked into it at all. It's not something that I've actually kind of researched in any way, but I'm really interested in it. And if you've got some stuff that you can send me,
I've got a whole file. Happy to send it to you. I've got a whole file.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I'd like that. Thank you. That's really good.
Bill, do you have any opinion on this, pal?
Yeah, I agree with you, Johnny. There's just so much evidence, like you said, names, places, and dates that, especially Trudeau. I mean, the photographs don't lie. You know, they say, what is photograph worth 1,000 words or whatever. And I think it's more than that. A picture can tell a lot of things, even video, because video is even better. I know that's my forte, is that you look at the body language, you see how people react and how they act around other people. You know, there's something to that. And yeah, that's another example. You know, you could almost superimpose over the top the two, and I bet you they match perfectly. I bet they do.
Several insiders such as Roman Catholic journalist Jerome Corsi, former intelligence expert Steve Pieczenik, who was on the Alex Jones show all the time. This is a great clip. Let's see here. It runs too long, unfortunately. I don't think it's prepped. Where Pieczenik says directly, it sounds like a way to tweak Alex Jones. I might have the time mark. Anyway, I'll send it to you, where Pieczenik goes, you know what? You remind me of Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Also, who left him too was George. I keep wanting to say George Knight. His last name is Knight. He used to be on Alex Jones. Now he's on Stumble now.
You've got someone like Jerry Corsi saying Bill to Alex Jones. Okay, well, maybe he just stopped talking to Bill and he got it mixed up. I think he did it more than once. This one's short. This one's a minute 30. See if I can get something out of this real quick. Pull it up and pause it. Oh, I'm sorry. Is this Steve Quayle calling him Bill? Let's see here. What do we got here?
I don't think most people recognize this. It was actually 30 minutes. 30 minutes.
I know they started pulling out quickly, but yeah.
Yep. But the deal is, what I'm saying is, we're the oons that broke up. Then you've got Carrie, who's absolutely in another universe, in an alternate space, and quantum Quagmireville, basically Quagmireville, basically.
I got it the first time. I know I've got Jerry Corsi calling him Bill.
Yeah, somebody else, like, is he the one that said, "Oh, you remind me of Bill Hicks"?
No, that's Steve Pachenik. I've got that, but unfortunately, the clip is a little long. I don't know that I'll get it in time. Let me see if I can grab. I think it's at the beginning.
Yeah, it's been a while since I heard it, and then of course, Alex also made a big deal of it, and then he made a mockery of himself.
Yeah, he told Vice News that's the one conspiracy he hates the most is being called. Yeah. By the way, the idea that Alex Jones blew up as a result of exposing Bohemian Grove is in and of itself absurd. Bohemian Grove is absolutely locked down with taxpayer-funded, like state police. It's got the highest security anywhere. With connections to the Roman Catholic Knights of Hubertus, by the way. They may not run it, but let me see if I got this.
Okay.
And I believe that grabbed me on.
Of Alex Jones.
Why am I alive?
Which is it? Forensic audits useful.
All right. I thought I had the actual. Hang on a second. That's not what I wanted. I don't want somebody else's work on this. I thought I had Steve Pachenik. It might just be the audio only, which. Let's see here. Anyway, I will get all this.
Yeah, and as far as the Bohemian Grove, you didn't show that whole video where that guy snuck in there and in the dead of night and there was nobody there. And I'm thinking, why would they leave that place unguarded? That place is like you said, highly security. Several people have tried to get in there. I think I showed you the History Channel video where one guy, they actually brought Alex Jones with them. And towards the end of the show, they got in the river and they were going down the river and they found a way in and they got in and they all got arrested. But Alex Jones disappeared. He was gone throughout the rest of the show. I mean, he took them all the way up to the beach and then he disappeared after they hit the beach. I mean, it was so heavily edited. It was just, it was all Jesuit theater. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Just to have it's like a lot of these shows that the History Channel puts on is they sensationalize things and they make fun of it to discredit it.
I've got it. I'm sorry, Bill. I didn't step on you. I've got the Pachenik vid.
That's fine.
It's in the wrong spot.
Isaac was talking about Trump and Jerry.
Let's see here.
And Ivanka. Speaking of that, months ago he wrote about it at stevepachenik.com. 3 weeks ago or so he came out and said, watch, it's going to come out. He's been compromised by New York Times last Friday that making factoids involved in regime change, you name it, did the Camp David Accord successfully, has a great pedigree, co-wrote books with, of course, Tom Clancy. He's also a medical doctor, psychiatrist.
Our own staff.
Veteran, and that's Dr. Steve Pachenik.
This is a new time when the internet and people like ourselves can create a lot of problems for our own establishment. Now, once again, the military-industrial complex is far more important than Chobani. You know, the Turkish man who wants to sue you for yogurt, let him do that. It's a waste of time and money. Your character's strong enough and you're smart enough and you're witty enough. Almost reminds me of this guy, Bill Hicks, but of course you're not he. So your brilliance is so sharp that it's a knife in itself.
It's a knife in itself. You remind me of Bill Hicks, but of course you're not he. What a tweak.
Wants to sue you for yogurt, let him do that. It's a waste of time and money. Your character's strong enough and you're smart enough and you're witty enough. Almost reminds me of this guy, Bill Hicks, but of course you're not he. So your brilliance is so sharp that it's a knife in itself.
How about that? How about that? I think I've got the audio of. Here's the audio from Corsi. I'm sorry, I don't have the video. I'll share that with you real quick. It's just him. It's just Corsi. It's just Corsi calling him Bill. But when you see it happening again and again and again, it kind of, you know, added to the.
It's the missing records. It's the proof of cover-up is the proof of guilt.
Yeah, and we just wrote this ebook, question of eligibility.
By the way, this whole thing of Barack Obama and his what a CIA distraction, what an intelligence distraction. Absolutely nothing came of it, and they stirred up. They pulled off an absolute coup. A complete and total coup of having this buffoon who can't take a dump without a teleprompter and a transgender as his wife, and brought him in and made him the very first black president. Anyway, here's Corsi's
Question of eligibility under my name, Jerome Corsi, and Mike Zollo, Zullo.
Yeah, another Roman Catholic. He's like a used car salesman, literally. Zollo was like a used car salesman. I think turned cop or something.
We lay all this out just like we did at the press conference. Now, your question.
It's not a silver bullet, but when you see all these insiders, it kind of makes you wonder. And more importantly, is the
the thing about Jimi Hendrix and Morgan Freeman. But
sure, yeah, it's another issue, and I want to get I want to get John on this, and John is a great source on this. I have a list. Okay, so here's a list. I'm going to get this to you, John. I'm going to give you my whole dossier so you can have fun with it. I have summarized. I have summarized a list. No, let's back this stuff. Summarize a list here. An example of why are we relying on actors or comedians for very important issues, either political power or journalism. Here's a running list. This is not exhaustive. Ashton Kutcher, the great pedo chaser, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Geraldo Rivera, Corey Feldman, Dick Gregory, the source of the Zapruder film, the Kennedy. Are you kidding me? Comedian Dick Gregory, Stephen Colbert, hyper devout far left Roman Catholic, Jimmy Dore. He's now a Joe Rogan, supposedly a comedian first. Eddie Bravo, the jiu-jitsu comedian. And these are the guys that we're relying on for information and to really cut through the, get behind the curtain for us. Malcontent clown with practice, being on a stage. It's the one conspiracy he really hates. It fits their MO. Hicks helped found, forgive me, he helped found Sacred Cow Productions with Kevin Booth. And Booth would go on to manage Alex Jones. Both Hicks and Jones are from Austin, Texas. As is Joe Rogan now living. There's a whole list of Austin. I can pull that up real quick. Something really creepy about Austin. Seems like a CIA hub there. Both men happen to be 6'1". Bill Hicks last worked with Kevin Booth on Waco. And that's how Alex Jones stepped in. Alex Jones has no verifiable history before Hicks' death in 1994. By the way, I got a lot of this over Nathan Lift the Veil Stoppelman, which was he's a decent journalist. Bill Hicks had no public funeral and no visible grave. Hicks died in his 33rd year at 32, before his 33rd birthday. What broke Alex Jones out of his expose of Bohemian Grove. Never mentions the Knights of Hubertus. Never mentions St. John of Nepomuk, the statue with his finger over his lips as you go into Bohemian Grove. Claims the cremation of Care is just a play and not real. Doesn't mention any of the sexual deviancy that is recorded there. And crashed the uncrashable. Far more likely Hicks was a guest and was offered to him the ultimate role. Let's see here. And then I've got some other... Send this all to you, my friend. Any thoughts on any of that I just blasted with, John?
Yeah.
Any feedback, John?
Sorry, what did he say? I missed that.
I don't want to monopolize the time. The time is here for you, and I will go back to Bill in a second.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not something that I've looked into, but it sounds absolutely fascinating. Yeah. I always say there's no smoke without fire, and there's plenty of smoke there.
Amen. All right, good. I've got other stuff I know I can get from you. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we know that it's stuff like this is right up your alley. I mean, I remember the first time, was it me that had you? No, you've been on Johnny's show before me, and then you were on mine. And then when we were talking about the Titanic, the story of the Titanic still, I mean, I still can't wait to read it in the books, but there's so much, I think that's in, was it the Falsification of History?
Yeah, it's in
that's
there.
In there. Yeah, I think I read that part in there. It's just, all this stuff is so fascinating. I also, was it you or somebody else brought up about, and I read it in some other guy, I forgot the guy's name, about the Hindenburg, that was actually shot down.
Falsification of History, yeah.
Oh, that's in there too. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a false flag.
Yeah.
It was a false flag. I mean, it was done to to demonize Germany, basically, because
right.
what was it, 37, 38 Hindenburg?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But all those stories are fascinating. And that's why I said earlier, when I mentioned earlier about your books, Shannon's books, Johnny's books, especially too, is that these should be textbooks. I mean, it's not me. I didn't come up with that. That was Hawkeye Clint Burton, our Hawkeye, who wasn't able to come on today. He was scheduled, but him and I agree that these books should be required in schools because it's so much evidence. You guys dig deeper, you guys have the evidence, and it comes down to names, places, and dates. And when you don't have a lot of that, you don't have a leg to stand on, so to speak. But when you have undeniable evidence, it's just mind-boggling how they don't want you to know the truth.
John is the gift that keeps on giving. I recently went back to Falsification of History for a rare article I had written. How do you get from the book of Daniel in the Bible and Daniel prophecies to John Hamer and Jack the Ripper? Have the article written by Johnny Cerrucci. In his 1976 book, Jack the Ripper, The Final Solution, journalist Stephen Knight implicated Robert Anderson as being involved in the Scotland Yard cover-up of the Ripper murders. More directly associated were the Queen's personal physician, Sir William Gull, and then Prime Minister of England, Robert Gascoigne Cecil, third Marquess of Salisbury, or simply called Lord Salisbury, after his title. Albert Victor, Duke of Clarence and Avondale, known lovingly as Prince Eddie, was a typical royal. He had nothing to do but indulge his every urge and then learn the arts on the side. Even that requirement of his effort was forced upon him by his mother, Alexandra of Denmark, Queen of the United Kingdom and Empress of India. Prince Eddie's main pastime, Turkish baths and homosexual sex with young men, but he found time to fall in love with a poor, illiterate Irish Catholic woman named Annie Elizabeth Crook.
Yes.
Crook resembled Albert Victor's mother, so there's something a little creepy there, whom he clung to for stability, quickly siring an illegitimate daughter by her, Alice Margaret, on 18 April 1885. Possibly a spiritual coincidence, because all the things that have happened on 19 April ever since, not the least of which is Ignatius Loyola becoming the very first superior general on 19 April 1541 of the Jesuits. Albert Victor would go on to marry Crook in both Anglican and Catholic ceremonies. Yet, try as he might to keep it secret, they were unable to, and the scandal threatened to destroy the House of Windsor. And who am I citing here? Okay, Vatipedia, Wikipedia. Bill of Rights of 1689, the Act of Settlement of 1701, restricting succession to the throne to the legitimate Protestant descendants of Sophia of Hanover. Make sure you have that inbred bloodline, who are in communion with the Church of England. Spouses of Catholics were disqualified from 1689 until the law was amended in 2015.
Yeah.
Both Roman Catholic Church and British royals turned to Freemasonry for a solution, and it was a vicious one. Both Annie and Eddie were kidnapped by police disguised as ruffians. The Queen's personal physician, our Freemason William Gull, lobotomized Annie, and Albert Victor was kept in seclusion. Unfortunately, Annie had a friend, Marie Jeanette Kelly, who had nursed little Alice Margaret. She was poor and would moonlight as a prostitute to supplement her living, and she saw this as an opportunity to blackmail the artist who had put the two together, Walter Sickert, and ultimately the royal family. Kelly was aided by several other poor women, all prostitutes. The Royal Freemasons, enabled by their brothers in Scotland Yard, to include Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Charles Warren, tracked down the women. Each was drugged and then brutally murdered, with each body grotesquely left with Freemasonic symbolism, such as entrails tossed over the left shoulder. Unfortunately for her, the fourth victim, Catherine Eddowes, wasn't even a blackmailer. She had occasionally used the surname of her lover, John Kelly, and had been mistaken for Mary Kelly. Kelly was ultimately hunted down, and her body was carved the most viciously of all. In his 2013 book, The Falsification of History, ta-da, Our Distorted Reality, my friend John Hamer states that William Gull had an accomplice, Lord Randolph Henry Spencer Churchill. Prior to the 1888 murder spree, Spencer Churchill had been the Tory leader of the House of Commons and then Chancellor of the Exchequer, Britain's top financial official. He was a Freemason and the father of future Prime Minister Winston Churchill, also a Freemason. I'm going to pause there and let my friend and author, there's more, but I'm going to shut up just to see if John's got any fact-checking or input on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely spot on. There's a lot more to it than that, obviously. But in Falsification of History, I give the full story. And I also do a stand-up presentation on it now as well. It's one of my repertoire. I'm a public speaker. I go around the country speaking at different venues.
Do you have any videos of that?
Sorry?
Do you have any videos of that? I didn't mean to step on you.
I haven't got a video of it, no.
I love that.
It would be great to
which
have.
I can send to you if you like.
Please do. I'm sorry, Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, like I said, I've been doing Johnny's book, Illuminati Unmasked, been making them documentaries, taking every chapter. And if you have something on that on audio and stuff, we could turn that into a video in
a documentary. Is he saying he means a documentary? He'll pause every sentence and add like video footage for
everything.
Everything. I've done podcasts on it. Would any of those be any use?
Absolutely. If you can.
I've still got the links. I presume whether they're still actually, whether they're still actually intact or not. The links. I don't know. I've not checked them for a long time, but yeah, I mean, I'll dig them out.
Because what I do is I take everything that's quoted, everything that's why you guys' books are so thick, is that it's a lot of citations involved or end notes and stuff. And I take those end notes and I make graphics. I do graphics, I do everything. So you actually see the evidence, and I use direct evidence sometimes. Sometimes I show the actual page of the book you're quoting, or the source that you're quoting from. or if there's a video involved, a video evidence.
He'll cut. If I'm mentioning a news program, he will go and dig up the actual news program and then cut to it. He does a phenomenal job. John,
because the visual enhances the information.
It does.
I may have one, actually. I'm just thinking about it now. I gave a talk about 100 miles north of here in a place called Newcastle. It must be a couple of years ago now, and I'm sure that the lady videoed it. And if I can, I'll contact her and see if she's still got it, and whether it's still online.
Gold mine, absolute gold mine.
Absolutely. I will. Yeah, I'll do that.
Happy to give her credit as well. And I mentioned in the article, pretty sure I mentioned in the article, John, one of the reasons why it was so critical that I went to Falsification of History. Let me see if I've actually got this in my article. Was what you said about Stephen Knight.
Yes. Stephen Knight wrote. It became famous for writing a book called The Brotherhood.
I've got it. No, let me read from you. Let me read what you said. It's brilliant.
Okay.
Knight did state that if Robert Anderson had participated in the brutal Ripper assassinations, it was in a cover-up. He took no active part in the grisly murders. Given Anderson's position as deputy chief law enforcement officer, this is no mark of integrity. As poor Stephen Knight, John Hamer writes, in the late 1970s, a researcher and author, Stephen Knight, managed to obtain limited access to the Ripper files, but discovered that there were many gaps in the records. Despite this, he still managed to unearth new leads and information based upon which he wrote his book, Jack the Ripper, The Final Solution, sits on my bookshelf. Unfortunately, before publication, many of the more incriminating parts were stolen, and in those days, before personal computers were commonplace, he had no backups or copies as protection. After the book was eventually published, minus the more incriminating information, he published another book, The Brotherhood, which exposed the gross corruption and illegality prevalent in the Freemasonic movement, and shortly afterwards, he was dead, allegedly poisoned, but of course, no arrests were made. And I am quoting, where's my footnote? Falsification, stop it. Falsification of History, Our Distorted Reality, John Hamer, Lulu, 2013. Brilliant. Thank you so much for because here, first of all, John, it was revolutionary to me to come across Stephen Knight making the claim that this was Freemasonic cops crushing a blackmailer connecting Prince Albert to the Roman Catholic Church with an illegitimate marriage and illegitimate daughter. That was revolutionary. And then to find out that that was watered down even more, thanks to you, my friend and phenomenal researcher. Love you for that, man. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, like, as I said, there's a lot more to the story, and the full story is in Falsification of History, which was my first book. But yeah, I'll try and dig out. Well, I'll send you the PowerPoint presentation, and I'll also see if I can get and some links to podcasts about it. But I'll also see if I can get hold of that video, because I think that's the only one that I can remember that was video.
Gold mine.
Doing. So yeah, I'll
gold mine. And obviously, John, anything I do, my friend, anything I do, including past interviews of you, please help yourself. Everything is wide open. It should be still relatively easy, especially on Odysee, to simply right-click and download. Anything of mine is yours as well, my friend. Please help yourself.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to go through. We're at 1 hour. How much time do you have?
I'm okay.
Okay.
As long as you like, really.
Yeah, good. I'd like to go another hour if we can. Go over some current events. And if just kind of pull things out, and if there's nothing there, then there's nothing there. I'll move on to, I've got a Pennsylvania poop ton, a Virginia 50,000 of topics to cover. And Bill, let me pause here. Bill, do you have questions primed for John that I shut up and let you give him?
No, not right now. I just, they'll come up later.
Okay.
I've just been basically pushing his books and encourage him to send us some stuff we can.
All this stuff. I mean, we can't, you can't just say, okay, John, Titanic, go. No, there's just so much. And he's such a phenomenal source of true history.
We could take one topic. I mean,
and go 2 hours. Yeah.
And go 2 hours. Absolutely.
Here's one I wasn't tracking, and Jesus Saved Darnell, another dear friend and collaborator, was looking at let's see here. Christopher Story, supposed journalist and author, and his book, The New Underworld Order, and how Christopher Story had touched upon the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, and then seen some Jesuit connections, and then dismissed them and said Loyola was a Jew, etc., etc. I did not know. I'm really thoroughly unfamiliar with Christopher Story. I did find he does not have a Wikipedia entry. He's got a military history fandom entry. Christopher Edward Harl Story, 1938 to 2010. British writer, publisher, and government advisor specializing in intelligence and economic affairs, perhaps best known for his collaboration with KGB defector Anatoly Golitsyn in 1995, his book Perestroika Deception. Johnny, you familiar with any of this? This is new to me, so I just...
I'm not. No, honestly,
Okay.
I've never heard of the guy.
Yeah. So
I'm
I think he's an intelligence insider, in particular with his original. He's not even listed in the original Perestroika Deception. Just some red flags. I found it here on Google Books. Perestroika Deception, Memorandum to the Central Intelligence, Edward Harl Publishing, and this is supposedly Christopher Story's two middle names, 1995, and I don't even think he's listed as a co-author or as a ghostwriter. There is on archive.com, there is a reprint where they changed the subheading, Perestroika Deception and Memorandum to the Central Intelligence Agency, to Perestroika Deception, the Second October Revolution.
Right.
And once again, oh, by the way, and the dedication, let me go big picture here. The dedication in memory of Jim Angleton, founder and outstanding chief of the Central Intelligence Agency's counterintelligence, a man of vision and courage, a warrior and comrade in arms who recognized the dangers of the Soviets' new strategic challenge.
James Jesus Angleton.
Yeah, right. Okay, right there, that is Johnny's Rojo Shoptal. I always say Rojo Shoptal because here in Pennsylvania, 2,000 miles north of the border, everything is Spanish and English. I went and I stopped by at a restaurant this morning, an Asian restaurant, and the Asians spoke to me in Spanish.
Really?
The Asian immigrants spoke to me in Spanish at the restaurant. All I could do is bite my lip until it bled. James Jesus Angleton. Director from, let me see, do I have dates here? Let's see, 47. I guess it's his service time, 47 to 75. Counterintelligence chiefs, 54 to 75. And he was director from, come on, what are the dates? Anyway, one thing Wikipedia has nothing about his religious connections. Did I just close that out? Let me go back to his file. Let's see here. The book. Bear with me here. Is it? Oh, come on. Come back up. There we go. Operation Gladio, The Unholy Alliance Between the Vatican, the CIA, and the Mafia by Paul L. Williams, Prometheus Books, 2015. James Jesus Angleton, a rabid anti-communist, an ardent Anglophile, and a devout Roman Catholic. Aha, surprise. Close friendship with Ezra It's the Jews Pound. Drank bourbon for breakfast, a graduate of Yale. Arrived in Rome as the commander of the secret counterintelligence unit of the OSS. Angleton was dangerously paranoid, seeing the world as a wilderness of mirrors. In these mirrors, he saw reflections of spies and counter-spies, many of whom he felt compelled to eliminate. an unfolding succession of conspiracy upon conspiracy, all of which required immediate and at times murderous resolution. Further on in Williams's book, Prince Junio Valerio Borghese, member of the Catholic black nobility, the Italian aristocrats, had remained loyal to the Holy See after the rise of Garibaldi in the 19th century. Let's see here. Angleton, outspoken pro-Hitler, pro-Mussolini, developed extensive contacts with Borghese. Let's see here. Let me share this with you guys. Bada bang, bada bang. Make us bigger here. Here's a citation. Operation Gladio. Do I have page numbers? Yes, 27 to 30. Let's see here. Black Christmas, secret government. On 15 May 1945, Borghese was arrested and charged with war crimes. Angleton managed to secure his release into army custody. The Black Prince was dressed in American uniform and transported from Milan to Rome. Whenever I change the font from black to red, that's Johnny throwing the patented Bill and Johnny bullshit flag. Angleton needed Borghese and the 10,267 fascists who fought under his command to help establish and stay behind units that would ward off Soviet aggression. You know, John, this is a good question. This is a good question to posit to you.
All right.
How we see the truth. We see, for instance, such as the Cold War. We know the Cold War was thoroughly manipulated, and yet, at a whole range of different levels, they did believe in it. They did believe in it. It's just when you get to something like Bay of Pigs. Oh, was Bay of Pigs a fiasco? Or was Bay of Pigs an absolute engineered betrayal, a purposeful slaughter of Cuban patriots so that the tiny little Littleton dictator, the Jesuit communist Castro, Justin Trudeau's baby daddy, would be, what's the word I'm looking for? Just thoroughly enabled. Any threat to him from Cuban patriots were slaughtered by the CIA. So where is that line of demarcation? I see something like that. So it's so hard, John, when the cogs themselves believe the story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're right, but I mean that's true of just about everything, isn't it? You know, the whole of society is kind of built on that premise that most people who carry out the agenda of those who sit up here are not aware that they're doing that. They just believe in what they're doing because they've been indoctrinated and propagandized from being little kids, just like we all were. But yeah, absolutely. God, what's the thread I was going to say now?
And that secures your situation. That secures your position. So you don't even have to have what we call residue of being connected and being manipulated, being biased towards the machine. All you have to do is not be an out-of-the-box thinker, and you're already being considered as a journalist, as a cop, etc.
Exactly that. Yeah, that's a good point. I always say, and again, this is one of my pet sayings that I always say to people when I'm talking one-on-one or in a group sometimes. And that is that the more educated you are, the more likely you are to have a closed mind and not be open to the truth. Okay, so I mean, I gave a talk last year. Well, it was on the 60th anniversary of Kennedy's assassination, actually. I did a talk on the JFK assassination out of all places, the University of Buckingham in the south of England. And that was just met with stony silence. It was really embarrassing. There must have been about 100 people there. And it was fantastic facilities, huge screen, like 60-foot screen, all state-of-the-art audio, video. I stood on a stage in front of these people, and it was just met with blankness, Put lots of little quips and jokes in there, not a titter. It was quite embarrassing. But that's just an example of, these are university people, they were university lecturers, and they were university students. So
the very people that we need the most, the very people we need to get through to.
Yeah, but it's like it's a brick wall because they've been so, propagandized by our educational system that it makes it next to impossible. Who are the people who were fought against during the the COVID nonsense? I know you don't like that word, but who are the people? It was the medical profession, and how close-minded are they? They're overeducated idiots. Overeducated idiots. That's what they are. I mean, a lot of them obviously knew what was going on, but they were protecting their own livelihoods. But a vast, proportion of them were just totally oblivious. They couldn't even see through that thin veneer of lies. It was just, and it was a thin veneer. It was, so bloody transparent. It was not true, and but they couldn't see it. And again, that's just another example of being overeducated, because that's what the education system is. It's designed to propagandize and to create a mindset that doesn't question, despite its protestations to the contrary.
John, you just described the entire medical industry. The entire medical industry, everything they do is based, by the way, doctor comes from the Latin docere, which is to propagandize, has nothing to do with healing. Everything, right. There's nothing, John, that they do that entails, well, pardon me, not nothing, that's an exaggeration, but most of what they do has nothing to do with actual hands-on experience. And just read it from a textbook and regurgitate it. And this is part of the licensing process. You jump through these hoops, you pay your fees, which are cost prohibitive for the vast majority of people. And then we allow you to get into our club. And when you're in our club, you are toe our line. Under normal, prior to this process, under normal circumstances, the resume of a healer is a long line of healed patients. That's the resume of it. I don't care if you did a rain dance. I don't care if you put on a special light. I don't care if you made me sit underneath a wooden pyramid. I don't care. Make me better. And whatever that process is. And I'm born again Christian, and I say there's no limits. Whatever you do, unless you're going to openly say, I'm praying to Satan right now. And you know what? Even that, I doubt you will have consistent healing with that process. There are no limits in when Johnny's Lord Protector, your resume is how many people have you healed? And there it is. Boom, you are a healer.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I talk about Royal Raymond Rife a lot, and he was a good example of that. I mean, he invented an incredible machine. I'm not absolutely 100% sure just how effective it was, but according to what I've researched, it was, he had what you've just described, a long list of healed patients. So what can't speak can't lie, in my view, and that's that sums it up.
My only concern, John, about, pardon me, Royal Rife and his magical machinery is this idea of I've got the silver bullet to heal cancer. I've got the silver bullet, as opposed to cancer is your body screaming at you you've been poisoned by probably a lifetime of bad habits. Things that your doctor hadn't told you about, okay? What you need is a radical altering to get away from these influences that have poisoned you in the first place, not necessarily a particular silver bullet. Whether or not it works or not, great. Does it work? Phenomenal. We desperately need it. But much more is we need to educate people into what cancer is, and how it is reversible in many respects, not all. I'm going to shut up. Bill, you trying to jump in? I can see you.
Yeah, it's because, we have a thing here in the States called the Food and Drug Administration. Right. I believe that a lot of the food manufacturing companies are working hand in hand with the drug companies, because how else you can make people sick? What's the best way to make people sick?
Yeah.
Put it in our food, poison our food. Then we have to run to the doctors, take their drugs, which is finally going to kill us anyway.
Well,
So
that's
they
their
work
goal.
hand in hand.
That's their
They
goal,
work-
pal. Is to treat the symptoms with cut, poison, and burn.
That's right.
And not treat the root cause.
And they don't want us to eat naturally. They don't want us to eat fruits and vegetables. They don't want us to do. And then the other day, Johnny was interviewing. What is her name? I'm
Shannon.
sorry.
Yeah, Shannon. Shannon had
Not Shannon. Not Shannon.
What else, Shannon? Yeah.
The
Don
other
Lester?
gal. Yeah, Don Lester. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Don Lester is that even our vitamins.
No, that was Shannon.
Was that Shannon?
was Shannon.
Oh my gosh.
Shannon
That's
had
the latest. That's the
absolute
latest
blockbuster.
hobby horse vitamins. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolute
'cause
blockbuster.
He had Johnny had two interviews. He had Don Lester and then later he had Shannon.
It's okay, pal.
I got the
both
two
of them
mixed
are
up.
phenomenal
But
health
they're both
experts.
they're both on that same subject, and it just blew me away that vitamin D3 is also used as rat poisoning.
Yeah, I don't know if you've got any visibility on what Shannon's working on now, John.
What specifically? I can't.
With the vitamins, and one thing in particular is the original vitamin isolation process. How did we not see this? She's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's the same chicanery as the virus isolation process.
And I've been taking.
The woman's a genius. I mean, she is a bloody genius. I mean, I stand in awe. I mean, she always says that I'm her mentor and all this, but I think she's outgrown me now. She's up here, and I'm her pupil now, I think.
Yeah, because I know there's a guy on YouTube who says read the labels, read what goes in them, but that can be misleading too because they hide behind certain words like natural flavoring. It's not what it means. Natural flavoring doesn't mean natural flavoring.
Right.
And so it's just a deception. It
doesn't mean that the product's necessarily natural, does it? It just means that the flavor of it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
John, give yourself due credit. It's not an exaggeration, especially with what we've covered in relation to your work. I can clearly see. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. You have to break off those chains that you have been given by your culture, by your schooling, by your mandatory schooling, because the government loves your children more than you do. The government will make you go through this process where your children learn to be brain dead slaves. And by the way, they will be vaccinated in order to go through this mandatory process. In the same way, your pets will be vaccinated before your Rockefeller-trained veterinarians treat them. I'm dealing with that right now too. It's a mindset, and let me tell you something. Don't short sell yourself. This was, and of course, Shannon had that mindset already there, but it's so important to break out of those chains. When you deal with blue pill normies, is there a way? I'm sure there are people who are still wearing masks up your way. Is there something? Yeah. What do you do? Do you plant seeds? Do you just, throw your hands up? How do you deal with normies?
Yeah. How do I personally deal with them, or how should one deal with them? I mean, personally, I long ago, I kind of gave up trying to influence individuals. Because it's such a low success rate. It's not even worth your while. Obviously the work that I do tends to wake people up, but it's not me doing it on a one-on-one basis. It's a general thing. I did a talk 2 or 3 weeks ago on the West Coast, which not like your East and West Coast. It's only 150 miles from here, so even though I'm on the East Coast, what I was going to say was, and there was this lady in the audience, and she said, "You saved my life," and I said, "What?" she said, "You saved my life, and I'm here to thank you for it." I said, "Well, I'm very flattered to hear that." I said, "What did I do?" She said, "You opened my eyes about vaccinations." She said, "And I didn't take the COVID vaccine. And as a result of that," she said, "I'm probably still alive." She was an elderly lady. So, it was really gratifying. But that, I'm getting off topic slightly, but that was an example. I don't actually approach people on a one-on-one basis. I used to a long time ago, but I just found it was just totally ineffective and a waste of both of our times, really.
How about family members, John? How about your family? Do you have people that are close to you that you're forced to focus on and maybe get in arguments? And
yeah, not my family, but my partner Karen, her family. Her family are not awake. Most of them, some are, but most of them aren't. So you've got to tiptoe around the subject. You can't just go in all guns blazing, because it just literally doesn't work, and you just alienate them. So yeah, I drop little hints here and there. People often say to me, well, I'm awake, but I don't write books. I don't do podcasts. How can I, how can I contribute to actually helping people wake up? And I just say, just tell people, just tell as many people as you can. Although I don't even practice that myself because of what I just said. But anyone who's in that position, the only thing that they can do is just talk to people in a reasonable manner, and either people will pick up on it, or more likely than not they'll dismiss it. But that's the only thing that you can do, really. You just keep trying.
And that's why your books and your seminars or meetings that you do, that's how you get it out. And that's why I do what I do, because as many people as I try to find, I try to get them to, watch the videos and promote them. Social media is so good with that, although we get censored when we get too heavily into the subject. But yet I just keep trying. I never give up. I never give up, because this truth is too important to not get it out there, and any means possible. Even if I have to buy, a huge amount of stamps and mail them. But mainly what you're saying is that when you got only a handful of people like your family and other people, that's where your books and stuff come in handy. But, we just can't mail out your books. We can't afford to do that.
There is an exception to what I've just said, to be honest. Yeah, you're right, Bill. Sorry. Absolutely no problem with that at all. There is an exception to what I just said, and that is if I get talking to someone, say in a shop or something like that, and they start saying to me, "Oh, have you heard about this? What do you think about that? Isn't it crazy?" Blah 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 blah. Then I will talk to them on a one-to-one.
You wait for an open door.
Instigate it. Yeah.
You wait for an open door. That's what I do.
Exactly.
That's what I do. Yeah. I don't approach people like the other day. I was in Market of Choice. It's one of our grocery stores, more healthy grocery store. And there was a guy in there. He had a mask. He had the paper mask on and everything. And I did what Johnny does. Just gave him a look.
Yeah.
That's an asshole thing to do. Johnny doesn't do that. Stop. Don't say that.
Yeah. When I first kind of, I hate the phrase woke up, but when I became aware of the truth, I didn't know anybody else. I mean, this is 26 years ago. I didn't know anybody else that felt the same way as I did. So I was just like, I couldn't wait to tell everybody, so everybody that I came across, I started talking about it. And I did. I absolutely alienated people through doing it, especially my own family. I don't know that I've said this on your show before, Johnny, but my family wanted me to see a psychiatrist. Wow. They thought I'd gone crazy. But eventually they came around to my way of thinking, but it took a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have not spoken to my brother since COVID.
Really?
My brother one day called up. My brother called up one day and he says, "Why don't you come over and we'll sit in the backyard and we'll wear our masks and we'll just visit for a while." I said, "No, I don't want to do that." And he hung up. And he hasn't spoke to me since.
Wow.
And I called him back. I said, hey, if whatever I said offended you, I'm sorry. But he has never contacted me since. And how long has it been since COVID?
Good couple of years since it ended, isn't it?
Years, yeah. It's sad, but
it's amazing, John. It's that whole breakout mentality. It's absolutely astounding. So the premise is, it's very similar to the health premise. The premise is that Anthony Fauci, Google, Twitter, Instagram, they all love you more. They stay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking, if this person gets access to John Hamer's latest book, they might actually act on something John Hamer said. And they might somewhere down the road stub their toe based on reading John Hamer's book. And we cannot let that happen. We love them too much to let John Hamer cause the single stubbing of a toe. How does that... Okay, so that's their premise, is they love you so much, they absolutely disappear anything that is just remotely dangerous. Now, there's their premise. Here's our premise based on common sense and maturity, which is, as power coalesces, it will seek to coalesce itself more. It will seek to crush things down, and as it commits crimes, it will erase the evidence of those crimes. Now, which makes more sense? That a massive crime has been committed, and in order not to have a full-on civil war chaos result of people taking justice into their own hands because there's nobody left, they need to erase all that information. Which makes more sense? It's absolutely shocking how many people are kept on the plantation. I make these metaphors all the time, John. The prison cell, it's not locked. You just have to think to push on the door, and it'll swing wide open. All you gotta do is push on it.
Yeah, great analogy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just like,
go ahead, Bill.
Absolutely. It's just like when you were talking to Don Lester. Now I remember what it was. Is we have to change our thinking sometimes too. I mean, I'm not into this weird, positive thinking, but there is a little bit of truth to that. We have to change our mindset, because if we're thinking, depressive thoughts, we're going to get depressed. If we're thinking of other things, your emotions can affect your health as well.
Yeah. Absolutely, Bill. Yeah.
So
I know so many people in the truth movement who are just overwhelmed by it. They cannot function barely. They're constantly depressed, down, because all they can see is a bleak future. And I don't operate on that level at all. I'm not saying this to blow my own trumpet. I'm just telling you how it is. I don't operate on that level at all. I am a very positive person. I think, every morning when I wake up, I think, going to have a great day. I don't look at next week or the week after or next year, because quite frankly, it could be hell on earth. But I don't think that way. I just live each day as it comes, and just take as much enjoyment as I can out of every moment. And I mean, that's partly symptomatic of my age, I guess. When you reach my age, that's probably a common outlook on life. But your point you were making, Bill, is absolutely true.
And it's critical. They dovetail together. It's our responsibility as we're waking people up to let them know your stasis, your optimal performance, your health is based on your mindset. Yeah. You have got to stay in a situation where, listen, at some point, I got to let all that go. For me personally, that's my born again Christian faith. I can do that. If you don't have a method to do that, you need to find that, because you will make yourself sick. Healing starts in your mindset and finishes there too. A couple more, John, and then I'll let you go. And unless Bill's got anything else, just this constant divide and conquer. It's just, I mean, you can pick any, whether it's Israel, Hamas, Russia, Ukraine. There's a big thing in the conservatard. I call it conservatard. No air quotes. My word. Conservatard community of people with right-minded values who are on the plantation. Right-minded values. They should know better, and yet it would cost them too much to think outside of the box. So they allow themselves to be pulled into something like the new transgender controversy, which is stoked by the machine, of forcing a transgender agenda when nobody really cares. Who cares? It's an opportunity for divide and conquer. And it's funny. It reminds me of the Barack Obama's husband's wife, Michelle, Michael, whatever her name is. And it's not a slam dunk either, because there are supposed high school pictures of Michelle as a teenage girl. It's not necessarily a slam dunk, but that Barack Obama himself is a mixed up guy. I think it's pretty sound, pretty solid. Perhaps also a mixed up, gender identity himself. There's an excellent chance that he was abused by his birth father, black communist Frank Marshall Davis. And this, it's a historical fact. They admitted to this. His mother, his white mother, and their side of the family through banking, connected to the CIA and banking. While they were in Indonesia, he was maintained by a transgender nanny. So I'm sure that wasn't healthy for him. A lot of evidence there, and that, and then they laugh at that, John. They take these people, like, let's just say that his wife is some kind of transgender, and now she's the first black first lady, but she's been on magazine covers over and over again. They prop it up and they laugh at it. Joe Biden doesn't even know where he is, but he's the president of the United States. Donald Trump Donald Trump spends an entire time acting like he's still on daytime television. He's an absolute. We say the worst things about him because he's so obviously a clown. But examples of this divide and conquer, John. Just your input on any of this.
Yeah, well, it's called the Hegelian dialectic, isn't it? It is what it says: divide and conquer. Separate people into two camps, no matter what you're talking about, whether it be race, black and white, whether it be religion, Protestant, Catholic. Christian, Muslim, whatever. It's all based on this divide and conquer, like you say. Everything, even politics, in this country we've got Conservative and Labour parties, you've got the Republicans and the Demon Rats. And, it just pervades the whole of society. The whole of society is absolutely predicated upon it. The whole structure of society is this Hegelian dialectic situation. And that's how they keep control, because people are too busy infighting on various different topics. It's you kind of lose the focus of who the real enemy is when you get all these distractions. And that's what they are, the deliberate distractions, to take our minds away from the real issues. And the real issues are that we're being subjugated to a ridiculous degree, far more than probably we ever have been in the past. And that's facilitated in many ways by technology, and the absolute sheer escalation of technology. It's crazy. I mean, technology drives me mad. I don't know about you guys, and I'm getting off the topic a little bit, but
please do.
Technology is just an absolute abhorrence. It's an aberration. They use it to prevent you from dealing on a one-to-one basis with them. In the form of corporations, banking, whatever. You cannot speak to a real person anymore. And again, that's another form of division. But there you go.
And they can completely lock it down. They can completely lock it down at any point. They appear to have, particularly DARPA's roots to the internet as a whole, DARPA's roots, and when people, for us, my agenda, all roads lead to Rome. A lot of people would say, no, Johnny, it's people who were Jews. Look at that guy. Look at guys like Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. And then I follow up and I say, I love it when we go down that road. February 4th, 2004, DARPA ends its social networking year-long experiment called LifeLog, and the same day, Mark Zuckerberg invents Facebook. Go figure. They've just been manipulated, and that too, Jew versus Gentile, divide and conquer. Divide and conquer.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's again, it's another control mechanism. I use that phrase a lot, but it's a control mechanism.
And it's successful
the only way.
Go ahead.
Right. I was just going to say the only way that a few thousand people can control allegedly 8 billion people. I'm not sure about that figure, but that's what they tell us. That's the only way they can do it, is by deception and by manipulation, by propaganda, and yeah.
And they also know that if they seed their lies with a coating of truth, it's that much more powerful to get people to accept it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying out there: propaganda is like rat poison. 95% of it is good and wholesome food that will nourish you, but the other 5% will kill you. Yeah.
Well put. Well put. There's a mechanism I call the hook, is to starve you of information, and then something that is overwhelmingly obviously true, they'll concede that for you in order to shore up a bigger lie. And I like to use the example of somebody like Jesse Ventura admitting 9/11 was an inside job, and then saying the Twin Towers were dropped by particle beam weapons in space. So it's much more important to acknowledge what you already knew, 9/11 was an inside job, to shore up the spinning globes and the satellites and all that other stuff. That's the hook. It's a hook. So
exactly that. Yeah.
What are you still on a regular speaking tour? What are your current what's going on for you right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always being asked to speak all around the country. Yeah, my fiance Karen and I, we do spend a lot of time on the road. Yeah, and I do podcasts, regular podcasts, like with your good self. It's a great life. I love every second of it.
Where are your? Am I missing your podcast? Where are your podcasts? So I have your.
They're all on my website. The links are all on my website. My website isn't very good. It really needs a modernization and revamping. But
got it.
They're all the links are on there. I could do with a new state-of-the-art website if you know anybody who's good with them. I don't know.
I already put it in the about. Let me make sure I've got it right in my best Canadian accent. Let me make sure I pull it up here on the screen. Let's see here.
Best Canadian accent. All right.
Put it in the video of the about in the video.
Oh, about. No, say
right.
About.
Right.
About. Yeah.
All right. Outstanding.
Yeah, if you go to podcasts and interviews, you see that in the top right.
All
the links
there.
Are there. Yeah.
Great. You recently did one with Adam, or is that older? Oh, that's old.
Which one, Adam? No, sorry, I can't get rid of those. I'm useless with technology.
Okay.
Those two top lines, they're just kind of stuck there. I don't know what to do with them.
Well, those were good interviews anyway. When Adam and the Krabs Files, those are great interviews. I've run them in the background all the time.
I used to do one a month, but I'm not doing one for about 2 months with Adam.
And what an absolute coup to have James Dellingpole apparently have you on more than once. I missed the original one. I just got the most recent one.
Yeah, it's down there. If you scroll down the screen, it's there somewhere. Yeah, I think it was last January, so 13 months ago. Yeah.
Yep, there it is. There's the other one. Outstanding. That is an absolute coup. Well done. Have you seen an increase in maybe circulation, more people getting access to your material as a result?
Yeah, since Dellingpole's interviews give a massive spike to my book sales. Yeah, it's great.
Fantastic. Yeah, he Bill, I don't know if you know Dellingpole, he put himself on the map as being an actual, what do you call, not licensed, but accredited journalist that began to question. So didn't he break the hockey pick, the hockey stick fraud?
Climate change. Yeah, the climate change thing. Yeah, he was. I think he coined the phrase ClimateGate.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing.
I might be wrong, but apologies, James, if it wasn't you. But that's what woke him up in the 2000s. The fact that it was a climate change nonsense, and it is just nonsense, isn't it?
Also, too, if you go to Amazon, you can pick up Behind the Curtain volumes 1 and 2. I have volume 1 here.
That's my favorite
and we
book.
Also mentioned, and it's on the top of my list. As soon as I finish Johnny's books, which has taken me months to do.
Come on, they're quick reads.
Anyway, this one looks good too.
It is.
One I also noticed when I went to your Amazon site, and of course we have your the one co-authored with Shannon Rowan called "Welcome to the Masquerade." I definitely want to read this one soon too. They're on my top shelf, top pile there. Also too, I saw the one you did on JFK.
Yeah.
And you have a separate one. And you have the separate one on the Titanic too. I thought that was in Falsification of History as well.
RMS Olympic is the real Titanic story. My book that I've named RMS Olympic is the real Titanic story.
Right.
The title doesn't really give it away, but it is. It's about Titanic.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And we talked about that fascinating story. And when I share that with people, they just, really? And then to find out their baby sister, what was the other one that became a medical ship?
Britannic.
The Britannic, and the whole story behind that, the insurance fraud, the whole
Federal Reserve
9 yards, and
Federal Reserve, Mr. J.P. Morgan, wonderful guy.
And who knows? They may not even. Some people say there may not even been an iceberg. So, there was
an iceberg, but I'm pretty sure as it's possible to be, that Titanic didn't hit it.
Right.
I think it was just they steered it near to an iceberg to give that impression.
Right? Because people hit icebergs all the time. It's just, it's just like planes hitting a building, and that's what made the Twin Towers go down.
Jesuit agent Edward Smith,
absolutely,
collared Jesuit Francis Brown that went on board and took photographs of all the victims to make sure we catalog them before they were killed off.
Absolutely.
Story.
And it's interesting that National Geographic did a special, which I have the video of, where they got hyper devout Roman Catholic Martin Sheen to narrate the story of the Titanic and exposes some of that stuff. Not the whole story. You have the whole story. Other people have some of the story, but you, John, has the whole story. And that's what's important.
Gordon's pissed off at me saying about Canadians don't even say that. Only idiot Americans imitating Canadians say it.
Speaking of the chat, we were talking earlier about Jack the Ripper and that story there too. A lot of that, when it was also brought out in the movie Murder by Decree, which was a Sherlock Holmes story, and that one was what was his name? Last name was it Christopher Plummer, who played Sherlock Holmes, and one of the guys in it was Donald Sutherland. And what do we say about Donald Sutherland there, Johnny?
Oh, well, the first thing that comes to my mind is how he was rabidly far left.
Right.
Invisible. He did the exact same thing that Jane Fonda did. He gave propaganda to the North Vietnamese military.
Yep.
Propaganda opportunities, but nobody knows it. Everybody knows about Hanoi Jane and the famous photograph of her sitting in an anti-aircraft emplacement. Nobody knows that Donald Sutherland did the exact same thing of going really far to that degree.
And
that's how they work it, John. They just like Israel Hamas. You take the pendulum and slam it to the two extremes. Slam it to one extreme and then slam. There's no balance. You're not allowed to think smart. You're not allowed to think balanced. You just go from one to the other extreme. Love the Jews, hate the Jews.
There's no gray areas, absolutely, and it's all extremes and polarization, isn't it?
And when you want to back up, go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say, sorry. Speaking of which, have you noticed, and the audience as well, I'll put this question to them. Have you noticed how in the last 20, 30 years maybe, that the pendulum has swung a different way now? At one time, the left was the demons. The left was demonized. Now, what is it? Far right. You hear this expression all the time. Not just the right, the far right. Far right terrorists. Far right this. The pendulum has swung completely, and now it's the right wing that is the demons.
I would say yes, and as a matter of fact, I was just listening to stalwart journalist Michael Schellenberger making the exact same pronouncement that you just made of how he was born and raised with a liberal. Even the terminology is not being left on the spectrum. Is not progressive, is not open-minded, but especially he was saying there was a recent poll that years ago 40% of Democrats want more censorship. Now 70% of Democrats want more censorship. More censorship?
What does that mean? Absolutely,
on the political spectrum or ideological, pardon me, not political, ideological, on the ideological spectrum, I define right as independent, as free thinking, as disciplined, as restrained, as living for something bigger than the individual, and life left ideologically as self-obsessed, undisciplined, hedonism. Hedonism appeals to ideological left. Hedonism is abhorrent to the ideological right. And therefore, the ideological right is the more dangerous of the two camps. The ideological left, it's a lot easier to say, you know what? I just want to have fun. If it feels good, do it. Punt my responsibility to the government, punt my responsibility to the authority, and let me just go have a good time. Versus there was a time where it was the reverse, where you could say stuck in the mud conservative really did kind of describe the right, and being free thinking and being open-minded and being balanced in your thought was more left-wing or liberal or whatnot. And it has reversed. And I would say that accurately so, that the right of the spectrum ideologically is the more dangerous if they're being true to their ideals. But many people on the right still are stuck and refuse to go too far with their thinking. The mere fact, John, that they could pull off the previous Trump so-called October surprise of saying that Hillary Clinton was installed as a result of systemic pedophilia with your henchman, Jesuit John Podesta, and then walk away from that. Guys like Michael Thomas Flynn, the 4-star general and former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, one of Donald Trump's, biggest trumpettes and cheerleaders, promoting this idea. And as soon as Trump gets in office, we all walk away. What? Pedophilia? Yeah. Comet ping pong? Yeah. Isn't that funny now? Either children are being trafficked and raped or they're not. How do you play that game? How do you dance that close to the fire and walk away? The whole Q phenomenon to go so far in truth. I have this great meme. I'll pull it up, but I want to start winding things up of Morpheus with the caption is, "Did you just take both pills? What the hell's wrong with you?" The purple pill. How do you go so far in the truth and then slam on the brakes and not go any further because it's too scary for you? You can get into pedophilia, but you're not going to admit how Donald Trump, the great pedophile hero, was standing on the other side of Jeffrey Epstein along with Bill Clinton. They're two sides of the same coin. It's an amazing disconnect, John.
Absolutely, yeah. And also, just as an addendum to that, have you noticed how the fascism has become a popular common insult amongst the left now. If you don't agree with them, you're a fascist.
That was always the case. That
they
was
don't
always
even
the case.
know what the word fascist means. It's just some insult that they throw.
Right.
fascism is
And historically, fascism has been called right wing simply because it's a far left tyrannical agenda that will hide itself with flag waving and patriotism on occasion. So you've got an absolute socialist amalgam. Really, fascism essentially, from my understanding, is a cooperative between government and big business, where it's like an oligarchy. And that's certainly what was there in the Third Reich. And yet, it got like some of the big millionaires at that time, billionaires. I've got one on the top of my mind, and it's escaping me. People that bankrolled the Third Reich. Anyway, it'll come back to me.
Ford. Henry Ford.
Yes, a huge one. Ford. Von Papen. Franz von Papen, devout Roman Catholic, bankroll the Third Reich is another one. Franz von Papen. This coordination. But Ford is a great example. Ford helping ramp up Nazi Germany and then creating the gas trucks for Soviet Union. Having plants both in Nazi Germany and Soviet Union. Another great example. Avril... oh my goodness!
And remember, Ford
Harriman
was also an anti-Semite.
Huge, yes, huge anti-Semite.
I have his book about the Jews and stuff, and it just
the whole Bush thing, the Brown Brothers Harriman banking, Avril Harriman, all of that stuff.
Prescott Bush.
Anthony Sutton, with the exception that Anthony Sutton doesn't say anything about Rome, which is very suspicious to me. And Anthony Sutton had done some phenomenal work on this Wall Street connection, bankrolling, creating the Cold War. Mm-hmm. One more thing I want to throw at you, John. I don't know if you have anything to close up with, but we like saying, whenever the machine has a lie that it wants to bolster, you'll get a movie on it.
Yes.
Jurassic Park, Apollo 13, on and on. Just over and over. When Titanic, James Cameron, Titanic,
just Apollo 13.
Right. Speaking
of which, I guess we went to the moon again this week.
Yeah, if you blinked.
After all those years, if you
blinked, you didn't realize we went to the moon.
Was it Japan that apparently landed on the moon now or something?
I'm not even tracking. There's supposedly a new. What is it? Oh, right. It's the Odysseus moon lander or something like that.
Yeah, Odysseus.
Right, Odysseus. Right, the Odysseus moon lander. They're saying that. Of course, Elon Musk is launching penis-shaped rockets into the atmosphere with Tesla cars and Homer Simpson in them all the time, every other day.
It was the Corvette from the movie Heavy Metal, too.
Sure. John, we need you. We desperately need you. Continue to do all the great work that you're doing. Continue to do. Listen, we've got to get you plugged in where we're having videos of these great speaking engagements. Yes. We're desperate. We're hungry for them. Okay. Get them up to us. We'll keep watching your website.
Absolutely.
Is that the best way to follow your work on your website? I got to catch up on your podcast.
I as soon as a podcast is published, I put it on there. So it's very up to date.
Outstanding. It's been an absolute thrill. I'm sorry it was so long since the previous time we've had you on. We're gonna have you on more often, more regular because
definitely we must do it again soon.
It's so much fun. Thank you for taking the time, John and Bill. Thank you for your co-hosting. It's phenomenal as always. Thanks for representing Bill. Go to the Johnny store, get some Johnny merch. Love you guys.
Also, the thumbnail is on its way.
Oh, thank you. Already got thumbnail, and John will put that up. Like I said, man, anything on my sites, anywhere, I'll get you that folder with all the Bill Hicks stuff.
Likewise, I'll send you the links. And
good.
All right, mate.
Thank you. Have a blessed. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys.
Thank you. Not much of it left.
Be strong and courageous. Resistance is rising. I promise you.